Hey, thanks for coming back. Today on the bench, we have a little bit of a sleeper in the gun world, and it's not really as old as some of the other stuff that we've done, or not quite as vintage. Since I'm older than this gun, I would prefer to be called vintage rather than old. But from what some of the guys up front tell me, this is an old gun, but it's a third generation Smith and Wesson 9 millimeter. This specifically is a model 3913, which is from the third generation, right? And that was never, the third generation thing was never an official factory designation. It's just kind of what uh, they were called. This particular group of pistols has been called. So we see that the third generation design changes come about and those models being introduced in the 1988, 1989 timeframe. And a custom pistol smith by the name of Wayne Novak collaborated with Smith and Wesson on a lot of the design features that were incorporated into this series of pistols. And just to knock out some of those briefly, they redesigned or recontoured the back strap of the gun. They made the grip panels thinner. Now, this is a Hogue aftermarket grip on this particular pistol, but the factory scales or the factory stocks, as Smith and Wesson calls them, were thinner than on previous guns. They redesigned this ambi safety, redesigned the contour of it. There's a bevel on the inside of the mag well. We'll show you here in just a second. The magazine floor plate on all the models, not just the ones with the finger extension, but the floor plate extends in front of the frame to allow you to strip it out if necessary. They changed the finish to more of a dull finish, and then they went with the Novak pattern sights on most of the guns, so the Novak low mount sights. So the nomenclature of these guns is somewhat different than what we see before. So if we look at the original Smith & Wesson semi-auto pistols, the 3959, 39 and 59, not four-digit number, the model 39 single stack, model 59 double stack, two-digit numbers. And then the second generation guns, and we'll do a separate video on them when we get a representative example. The second generation had three digits, like the 469, the 439. And then the third generation has four digits, the 3913, the 6906, the 4506. With, of course, there's never an absolute with Smith & Wesson. There are some third gen guns that have three-digit serial numbers, and those were the value line guns, the stripped down economy line guns. So basically throughout this entire pattern of guns, we have two different action types. We have the traditional double action, single action, which is what this gun is, with the decocker here. This is a safety and a decocker. So with the gun on safety, let's go ahead and clear it out so the internet guys don't go crazy. So we're completely clear here. So we also have a magazine disconnect. So without a magazine in the gun won't go bang. Remember, 1990s, this particular model, 1989 through 1999. So this was a 1990s gun, and magazine disconnection was all the rage. Now that can be removed, that can be changed in an existing gun if you so desire. So this ambi safety here also decocks, and with it in the safe position, the trigger is disconnected, so the trigger doesn't work. So we return the safety to the fire position. Now we have a traditional double action pull, and then it would be a single action pull on subsequent shots, and you would decock it when you decided not to shoot anymore. So the other mode available in this gun was double action only, just like a revolver. Was what's called a slick side. This ambi safety, that there was no safety on the gun. It was double action only, just like a revolver. So it was a slick side gun with no decocker, no safety. So the nomenclature on the model numbers, you can actually break down that model number to make it to give you a determination as to what the gun is. So the first two digits indicate the caliber. So 39, 59, 69, or say the second digit of that, the 9 indicates that's a 9mm gun. The ones that start with 10, like the 1066, 10mm, 40, like the 4016 is the 40 caliber. 45 is in the 4506, 45 ACP, and then there was an oddball, the 35. And the 35 was for a caliber called 356 TSW, 356 TSW, which is not often seen now. And that's worthy of if we can get a hold of one We'll do a video on that. So kind of 357 SIG-ish, if you will. So the third digit gives you an idea, 0 through 8, gives you an idea of what the action type is, whether it's a standard action. The 1, for in this case 3913, the 1 is a standard action with a decocker. So that's exactly what we have here, standard, double action, single action. And then the last digit is the materials of construction. So the 3 in this case stands for the aluminum frame, stainless steel slide, all the way up through 7, which was stainless steel with carbine slide. So the 3914, which was a companion model to this, is exactly the same features. The 4 indicates the aluminum frame with a carbon steel slide, which was blued, and the frame was black anodized. So the 3914 was a companion gun. So how this came out is there are, and I truly don't know the number, but over 50 different model numbers in the third generation Smith & Wesson. When you talk about third generation Smith & Wesson pistols, there's over 50 different distinct model numbers. So that gives you the opportunity to collect. Some of them are fairly low production run guns, so that you could amass a pretty decent collection. And a lot of them are still sleepers, and we'll talk about value here in just a little bit. But let's talk about this gun itself. Let's pull it apart and show you some of the features on the inside. So the 3913, you like that little flip there on the notes for this gun. So this particular gun is an early gun. It's a 1989, so first year of this model. And they can be difficult to date because these are all, the serial numbers are all in the triple alpha code. In other words, there's 3 letters followed by 4 numbers. And there's not really a chart out there, an official serial number chart on these Smith & Wesson pistols. There are unofficial charts that are put together from collecting data from individual owners that have submitted, hey, I have serial number TFW, whatever, and I bought it new in January of 1992, whatever the deal is. And people have kind of scrabbled together, kind of like the Glock. There's a serial number table for Glocks done the same way. The same thing's been done for Smith. So TDF, Tango Delta Foxtrot, was the introductory serial number for the 3913, and this one is TDF 0600 something. So this is number 600 and whatever that serial number is of this particular model. So it's fairly early gun. It's a standard double action, single action with the decocker, therefore the digit 1 in the model number. 3.5-inch barrel, standard 3-dot sights, and the Novak carry Novak low mount. So another little deal about this is it doesn't have, later guns had a mill cut along the trigger guard here that these early guns don't have. I don't know that that means even a single extra dollar in the value of it. It's just kind of indicative of it being an early gun. So they would have had black Delrin wraparound grips, hard plastic grips, and that at some point in its life this has been replaced with these rubber Hogue grips. So it makes it a little bit more shootable, does make it a little bit more thicker, right? Takes away from it. So this particular gun is basically the standard 3913. So also, well, there's another variant of that, super rare. We talked about guns of really rare, really low production. NYPD ordered some of these guns for off-duty carry. There were 10 of them. They were double action only. So they were slick side. They didn't have this, but they were not marked 3953, which is what the model number should be for a double action only. And that model exists, 3953, this gun double action only, but they were marked 3913 with a special serial number run of NYPD 001 through NYPD 010. So you can imagine the value on one of those known 10 guns would be considerably higher than the standard gun. So there are other variations of this gun that are found out there in the marketplace. Probably the one that's sought after the most is the Lady Smith, the 3913 Lady Smith. Now there's a different frame angle on the Lady Smith than this cut right here. So it's angled a little bit differently through here, and we've got some still photos we're going to put up there. So that was actually etched Lady Smith on the side. It was a right-hand safety only a safety on this side. There was not a safety on this side. Here was not an ambidextrous gun. Had a gray Delrin grip instead of a black one, and it came with a Ladysmith Martin bag. So obviously that gun was 1990 through 2006, so it actually outlasted the standard 3913. The Ladysmith was in production for longer than the standard 3913. So and it came with that carry case, obviously marketed for women, but I'm telling you, I was in law enforcement back during that era, and a lot of us carried 3913s, and it wasn't unusual to see a big burly dude carrying a 3913 Ladysmith because it just felt good in the hand, and they were sweet little shooters. There was a small run, the 3913 NL November Lima, made from 91 to 94. It was the same as the Ladysmith. It had the same angle on the grip frame. It just did not have the Ladysmith mark or the carry bag. So that was that gun. Then there was the 3913 TSW, Tango Sierra Whiskey, the tactical gun. There were two runs of those, one from 97 to 99, and all those, they were etched tactical on the slide. Serial number prefix was Mike Sierra Echo, so MSE on that 97 through 99. And then they changed it in 2000, still was a 3913 TSW, 3913 Tactical. The controls went from stainless, colored, or silver to black, and they mounted a rail on the frame. It was not cast into the frame, it was a separate piece mounted onto the frame. So the interesting thing about those guns, if you take a look at those, the slide and the frame were machined as a set, and they were numbered to each other, not with a serial number, but with an assembly number. So if you're evaluating one of those guns to buy, pull it apart, and it would be unusual for it to not match. But in the event that those assembly numbers don't match, you know that somebody's been in there messing with it. So. And we talked about before, there was a 3914 and a couple of subversions of the 3914, which was this basic gun in black. So let's field strip it real quick and pop it apart, and then we'll talk about what kind of value you should expect to pay for it. So move this out of the way. So all semi-automatic firearms, we're going to clear the magazine first. So we have the traditional magazine release button there. There's that bevel in the magazine well that we talked about. So the correct way, you have the end of the you have the axis, or the axis of the slide lock here sticking out this side. So we're going to this axis part of the slide lock, we're going to bring the slide back to where it's within that notch here. So we can push it back this way until we can pop this, out. And then we pull this straight out of the frame, set it aside, and now the slide can come out or come off the frame. So then, now this is not, for all you Glock owners out there and SIG and everybody else owners out there, this is not a captive recoil spring, so pay attention when you take this out. So these will separate. Doesn't matter which side goes on which, but it's not captive. So, and then the barrel just lifts out and comes out this way. So there's no separate barrel bushing. The barrel bushing is integral to the slide on this particular model. And so you can see here when we operate the ambi safety or the decocker, you can see that lobe come down to where it operates. And what that's doing is when you rotate that, it is pushing down this lever right here, and that's what's causing the hammer to go back. So it's difficult to do. I mean, the machine does it better than I do it by hand. So putting this gun back together, when we go to put it back together, we have to be careful of these levers because we have to manually depress them to get the slide all the way to the rear. So I don't recommend taking it apart further than that. It's difficult. You have to pull. There's a 3-unit set of pins that come out to remove all these component pieces here that are pinned all the way through. So that's a little bit difficult, and that's one of the complaints about this gun, is that taking it completely apart, detail stripping it, is is a little tool intensive, I guess, and it's probably a little more than the vast majority of people want to deal with. But you can get to most of this stuff that you need to clean from this perspective here, right? So you can get the integrally ramped barrel. You can get that clean and all of that. So, all right, so what would you expect to pay for specifically the 3913 series? Now, again, there's a jillion different models of third generation Smith & Wesson in 4 different calibers, 3, 4, maybe 5 different calibers. And prices will vary depending upon rarity. Same thing we always talk about: originality, scarcity condition. Third gen Smith & Wessons are not scarce. They made them for over a decade. And it was their primary semi-automatic line for over a decade before the M&Ps, before the Sigma series and the M&Ps came out. So there's a bunch of them out there, and some more than others. So originality on this particular gun, the sights have been jacked with. The only substitution, I guess, is the addition of this Hogue grip, and it doesn't have the box. We have both magazines. 8-round magazines, by the way. This is single stack gun. The 59 series were double stacked, but no box. So that's going to pull a little bit off of it. It's not a pristine box example. There's a little bit of wear. There's the typical scratches that you get on the stainless finish. So it's a used gun. It's a shooter grade gun. And what we're seeing on the marketplace for a 3913, which is one of the more desirable in the third gen Smiths because it's still an easy to carry gun. We see these running in the $400 to $500 mark typically in actual sale pricing. If you add the box and whatnot, you can squeak a few more dollars out of it, maybe up to $550. We see some of them sell for over $600 in their really crisp box as new condition. They can bring over $600. Fairly regularly, but generally in the as found condition, somewhere in that $400, $450 range is where they're living right now. I fully expect that to go up as collectors begin to, I don't want to say discover the guns, they know about the guns, but as collectors begin to take more interest in them, the price is going to go up. So anytime you have a fixed supply, they're not made anymore, fixed supply, and then attrition taking those guns out of the marketplace, you'll see the prices start to go up on these. So the Ladysmith version of that is made a little bit longer, made 16 years. If it has the bag, the Ladysmith marked bag and all that, that's pretty reliably $500 in good shape. And then the TSWs, the tactical guns, will bring more than that. They'll bring up to $600, $650. And then rarer subversions of that, or documented police department guns with special serial number ranges or so marked, can bring more than that. So not breaking the bank. Certainly for the price that you would pay for a new Glock, or maybe even less than you would pay for a new Glock or something like that, these guns are certainly available. Now, the question becomes, a gun of this physical size put together, it's still a 9-round gun fully loaded. 8 rounds with 1 round in the chamber is 9, right? And SIG 365s in this size envelope, you can get 15, 21 rounds even, with the correct magazine. So technology has kind of progressed beyond what this gun was designed to be, but for its time, it was a great super gun. And remember, in 1994, the what was that thing called? The Omnibus Crime Bill took out magazines greater than 10 rounds anyway. We were all limited to 10-round mags back then. If you're old enough to remember such a thing. So this fit right into that ballpark. And I'm telling you from experience, it was a super, super popular gun for plainclothes police officers, off-duty police officers that wanted to carry a 9mm. So that, or chopped down 39s like the DeVille and the Asp, which is kind of where all this thing started. So anyway, that's Smith & Wesson 3913, and just a little bit about third-gen guns. But the cool thing is, there's enough of them out there. If we get a 4506 or a 1006 or whatever, those will be worth talking about as well on their own. So don't sleep on the third-gen guns. I've got probably 200. I think my last count was 204 Smith and Wesson revolvers, mainly pre-1957 guns. And I haven't really paid attention to these guns up until recently, but I'm starting to think that you'd have to come up with a really special revolver for me to get excited about it. But I think I'm going to start looking at these guns and start trying to amass a little bit of a collection of the second and I've got 39s and 59s, but second and third generations of the metal frame guns. And that's another interesting thing. These are metal frame guns, right? And everybody was, ooh, yeehaw, when everything started going polymer, right? When Glock came about. And Glock, by the way, was not the first polymer framed handgun on the market, just saying. But they were certainly one of the first hugely successful ones. But and now, you know, the M&Ps have been out there and all that other stuff has been out there. And now Smith & Wesson is coming full circle with the metal frame M&P series that are out there now that are super popular. So anyway, that's just a little aside, I guess, because I'm random like that. Anyway, if you like what we're doing, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We really enjoy interacting with you folks in the comments section. Some of the comments are better than others, I'll say, but that's okay, I guess. But we enjoy the support that you've given this channel. When we first started, I think I've said this before, when we first started this over a year ago, I would have never believed that anybody would even be watching this because it seems silly that somebody would want to watch some old dude like me talk about old guns. But I'm glad you do, and we'll keep doing it as long as you guys keep watching. So thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.